Hey there, folks. This is Civ Fanatic coming at you with another video. This time we're going to do a little bit of a myth busting. I don't know exactly how prominent this myth is, but I've taken like a 3-year hiatus from playing Civ 6, and I've come back to the game. And in order to get my mind in the right place, I had to refamiliarize myself with some of the game mechanics and you know, redevelop some strategies on how to play the game successfully. So, in order to do that, I've watched quite a few videos from other content creators that do Civ 6 related videos. And one of the things that I'm noticing, they're not actively promoting chopping for production as a strategy. They're not flat out saying that chopping for production is a good strategy, but they're doing their playthroughs in a way that suggests that they believe chopping for production is a good strategy. And the premise of this video is that chopping for production is a piss poor strategy. And just because your favorite content creator employs this strategy, all that really means is that they are so good at the game that they are not severely punished for employing this strategy. They're able to overcome the costs because they're so good at managing their way through the game. But the average player is going to be more severely punished for adopting this strategy in their playstyle. So, whenever you make any decision in the game of Civ 6, there are different things that you should take into consideration. When it comes to chopping forest tiles for production, you should look at the cost of producing a builder charge, the benefit of using that builder charge to chop a forest tile, but also you should be considering the opportunity cost. So what I've done here is I've created an early game scenario, and I restarted the game a bunch of times. I was looking for a capital city that was surrounded by hill tiles. And the reason why I've done that is because it creates the least penalty for chopping a forest tile. Because if I chop this forest tile, I can then come back at a later time and convert this tile into a mine and get production out of it, if that's the choice that I wanted to make in this game. All right, so what are the production benefits? Well, at this stage in the game, whenever you're considering whether or not to chop a forest tile, the more text that you research, the more production you will yield by chopping a forest tile, right? So at this stage in the game, you get 25 production for chopping this tile. But you should also take into consideration what the cost is. And at this point in the game, it costs 54 production to generate a builder. So that means if you divide that by 3, because the builder has 3 charges, it costs 18 production per charge. So if I chop this tile, the net benefit isn't 25 production. The net benefit is only 7 production, right? Because it cost me 18 production to produce this charge, right? So that the profit is 7 production. And it doesn't appear to me that any of these, content creators, when they do talk about chopping for production, they only talk about the net yield of 25 production. They're not talking about they don't take into consideration the cost for that builder charge. So that's the first mistake that I believe that many of these content creators are making, because I've heard them flat out say that they've done the math on this and that chopping for production is a good idea. And it's just my opinion, my argument is that they're wrong. That it's actually more often an improper choice than it is a proper choice. Now, there are situations when chopping for production might be your best option, but as a general rule, chopping for production as a strategy is always a bad choice. There's always better options out there because construction is a thing. If you look at your tree and you go to here, that this is a tech that you can research in the classical era, and you get +2 production for every lumber mill that you create. So if you go back to this, let's just say that this wasn't surrounded by hills, but there were a number of, there were more forest tiles that could be converted to lumber mills. This could still be a highly productive city if you took the time to, turn these into lumber mills. Because, this 2 production would change to 4. Now you would lose a food, but you would still get 4 production. So, that's just something that you should take into consideration. And at this early stage in the game, there's still 225 turns left. And by the time you research construction, there's still going to be probably 150 turns, somewhere in that vicinity. So with 4 production at 150 turns, you're talking about quite a bit of, lost production if you chop. And especially if you chop for 25 production. I mean, it's the idea that chopping for production is automatically a good idea is insane to me. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. So the other thing that you need to take into consideration when deciding whether or not to chop is the potential missed opportunity. Now, I would argue that this builder charge should probably be used to convert this into a farm because this city needs more food. It's not getting enough food to really grow at a rapid pace. It's going to take 26 turns until it grows again. So I would suggest that a better use of this builder isn't to chop for production, but to convert this into a farm. And the other reason why I suggest that that's the best choice for this builder charge is because another opportunity cost is I'm researching craftsmanship. In order to get the inspiration for craftsmanship, you have to improve 3 tiles. Well, I've improved 2 mines. This is my last builder charge, and if I make the decision to chop this forest tile, I will not get the inspiration for craftsmanship, and I don't have any other builders. So, there's 2 missed opportunities by making the decision to chop this forest tile. But I'm going to do it anyway, just to see what we get. So what we ended up getting, it was going to take 4 turns to build this trader. I chopped this tile. Now it's taking 2 turns. So, there is some benefit to chopping forest tiles. And I would argue that there are scenarios where chopping is the best choice. But in my opinion, chopping early game, the first 50 turns of a game is always the wrong choice. I just don't think that it's ever the best choice that you can make. There's always going to be tiles that this builder can improve, that your cities will get more benefit than just 25 production. Like that, the idea that that's a good idea to me is just always wrong. Early game, mid game, maybe there are arguments that could be made for chopping more often. So let's change to a different scenario. Let's go to here, and I'll see you on the flip side. Okay, so we're back in a different scenario, and in this scenario, we don't have any hills tiles in this city, so I don't have the opportunity to, increase production in this city from hills tiles, improving, making mine improvements. We're at turn 92. With the text that I have researched, I would get 52 production by removing this, by chopping this forest for production. But I also have construction research, and I would get the +2 production, so that would change this to a 1-4 tile, which would increase the production in this city if and or when there's enough citizens to work it, to 8 instead of 6. So, hypothetically speaking, if there were more forest tiles, yes, I could chop them, and yes, I could get some production for that city in the short term, but the long-term cost, it just doesn't justify it. I think it's a much better decision to, let's say that these were both forest tiles, to create 3 lumber mills and increase the production to 12 instead of 6. So 8, 10, 12, yeah. So, assuming that there were enough citizens to work those tiles. Additionally, you can put Magnus into, your city if you want to chop tiles. Instead of 56, I would get 78. But, the thing that you want to always do when you're making a decision like this is to look at the cost. Right now it costs 66 production to produce a builder, and therefore it's 22 production to create every builder charge. So I'm not benefiting a full 78 production, I'm only benefiting 56. So that's just something to take, even with Magnus, I'm still only getting 78 production. So yeah, it is a fair amount of production that you could get for, chopping this forest tile, but is it the best decision? And I would argue no, because there's still 150 turns that you could get a lumber mill. You could get 4 production per turn out of this for 100 turns. That's 400 production instead of just 78. So I'm not sure exactly why these content creators are suggesting that chopping is your best option automatically, because it's not. I think that there are times when that makes sense. Like, for example, if you're playing on deity level and you want to chop out a wonder, because the only way you're going to get that wonder is by chopping it out, then, there can be an argument made that that's the right choice. Also, let's say that we were being attacked and we needed to start producing units, and we had a bunch of forest tiles that we could chop out units with. Maybe in that scenario, chopping for production is your best choice. The only argument I'm really trying to make here is that when you're making this decision, there are more things to consider than just this 78 production. That's not the only factor. So, I just, what I'm recommending is that you weigh your options carefully, and you consider the cost of producing builders and the potential missed opportunity cost. So with that being said, I'm going to leave it at that. I consider this myth that chopping for production as a strategy is a good idea is just a myth, and it's actually not true. That being said, thank you for watching, and I am going to be playing Civ 6 more often. If I can come up with tips and strategies, I will create more videos. Other than that, I will see you on the flip side. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.